do it, man. Let's do it.
I am so excited to present to you Mr. Jordan Schwarzenberger.
And if you can put the graft in, put the time in, you know, you'll have options on the table for you.
Hi Jordan, thank you so much for inviting us into this space. I cannot wait to get into a deeper conversation with you and just find out what you are like as a person as well as a businessman. So let's get started.
Let's do it.
My first question is, at 17, you had this hunger for hustling, you were really ambitious. Where did that stem from?
Where did it stem from? It's a good question. So I think at 17, it wasn't so much a hunger for hustling as it was really a desire to not go down the road that everyone was telling me and tells all of us that we need to go down, which is university, sort of find a job that will somehow take you, and then you kind of just float through the rest of your time in your 20s. I just didn't want that, right? I knew that I wanted to get stuck in, and I think you can't really get stuck in a classroom, in the creative industries especially, which is where I knew that I was sort of being called to. So for me, it was a case of finding a way out of that, and that was the reason why I needed to think a bit differently, to try strategies to break out from that road that was just kind of just given to me, like, this is what you're going to do. So that's when at 17 I applied well, I didn't even apply at all, sorry. I sent a bunch of emails out to people at VICE. I found a bunch of emails from a friend of mine who'd done work experience there, sent a ton and just said, look, can I speak to somebody here? I just want to know that there's some kind of light. VICE being a company that I looked at and thought, actually, they're cool, they're interesting, they're dynamic. And I remember at the time looking on their website and seeing a job of a creative and being like, wait, you can be paid to be creative. Like, that was the thing that I'd been doing all the way through school. I'd launched like a clothing brand, I'd launched a film magazine, I'd made music, I'd done a bunch of different creative projects. So hang on, there's a job that's actually called a creative, and that can lead to a creative director role and all these things. I had no idea this stuff even existed before. But VICE had all of that, so that's why I reached out. And from the 20 emails I sent, I think I got 2 replies, and one of them ended up accepting me to come in and chat to him. And then from there, or to her even, from there then I got introduced to the person who ran the agency. I didn't know what an agency was, but he was like, yeah, cool, let's chat. He then said, yeah, if you want to come do work experience, let's do it. And so I started doing work experience there. I was there for 6 weeks before starting at university in the September of 2015. Long time ago. It's crazy, that's a long time ago, but it is. Yeah, so September 2015. And then I was doing university alongside VICE, going to VICE every Friday at uni for the rest of the week. Hated university so much, and I was like, this is the biggest waste of my time. I was doing a degree called digital culture at King's.
You didn't want to go, did you?
I just hate it. It was just like, this is so impractical. It's got nothing to do with the industry. I was working at VICE on the Friday and then going to uni from Monday to Thursday. And the contrast between the two, the degree was called digital culture, but then I was working in the real digital culture on the Friday. And you just saw that those two things were completely unaligned. And actually, the time I spent at VICE over my summer, like, I learned infinitely more then than I could ever have done in a degree. And so it was just a light bulb where I was like, right, I need to get out of this. And so I did. And then round here, sorry, it's a bit of a mess, because we've been using it all morning.
Was this where, because I thought this was very reminiscent to where Luke Littler was throwing the darts for the...
It was not, so we actually filmed that in his house.
Oh, cool.
That was in his mum's house, of all things, so in Warrington.
Nice.
But yes, this is cereal brand.
The newest
baby, the newest one, so that's exciting. Caramel Gold Chocolate Crunch, £2. Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong.
And that's it. And this is where the guys do their More Sidemen shoot. So you probably see More Sidemen now. This is the new sofa. It used to be done in JJ and Simon's sofa in their flat in central London. Now it's moved to here. So and that's kind of, and then obviously Sidecast. So this is the set for the podcast, which is elevated. This is the 3rd set for this now. So the first one was over in a little unit around the corner. We then had the season 2 one, which was a bit smaller. It wasn't the best set, to be fair. This one's amazing.
So I remember
and this has screens.
Space where it was Mr. Beast and Mabel and like doing some kind of podcast. I remember it was
that was season 2.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it was a good set, but obviously then elevated now.
Who was the first famous person you worked with?
I remember when I was at LADbible, so after VICE I went to LADbible with the guy who ran the agency there called Ian. He got the job to be MD of that agency and he brought me with him. I remember like it was maybe the first week we had a shoot with like Big Narstie. I remember riding around on a bus in London somewhere with Big Narstie filming for LADbible's Instagram. And then not far after that was the Sidemen actually, when we did the charity match. in 2016. So I was covering that for Sport Bible. And obviously then fast forward however many years later and like we're working together. But yeah, that was 2016, Southampton, covered that whole game. And obviously there are tons of creators and influencers there at the time. But those are the first two things. And then obviously, yeah, from there you just end up working with various different people, right?
That's so cool. So a bit more about YMU, because that to me, that is where you got your experience. And you worked with people like Amelia Dimz, Steve Aoki, Ant Dec. When you walked into a room with these people at, 19, 20 on a high salary, did you ever suffer with any imposter syndrome, or did you feel like you were there for a reason?
Yeah, well, I think for sure there's a level of imposter syndrome when you're given a big role in a company at a young age. And I think that's the thing, right? Like at the time and still today, I was given a position of, being responsible for creative strategy, future-proofing for the group of people, for the group of clients there, 2,000 of them. And to be so young doing that, like, yeah, there's for sure, like, no one would, I think you'd be lying if you didn't say that you felt like you didn't have a level of imposter syndrome, especially when you're working with people who are a lot older than you, right? And you're then servicing people who are older. But I think it's finding confidence in the reason why you're there. And for me, it was finding confidence in the fact that, no, I'm 19, 20, that's why I'm here, because I'm young. And I've also got the experience to be able to articulate strategy and creativity and culturally relevant ideas to clients. And I built up a good track record of doing that there. So you kind of find your feet early on, yeah, for sure. You are a bit like, all right, this is like more the corporate side, right? You're working with people who are a lot older than you, but you're more senior at a younger age. That's a bit hard sometimes to kind of reconcile, especially if you don't go in the right way. And that's the bit that one needs to learn. For me, it was a case of learning how to stop feeling like I needed to like lead. And actually take a slight step back and listen. I think that was the big learning for me. And then once that shifted and I became more of a student rather than trying to lead just because I was on in a role that was bigger or more central, that's when everything started to change, I think.
That is honestly amazing. What's this shirt here? Is this from the original videos?
What is that shirt?
Bazinga 2016 t-shirt. Damn, honestly.
Yeah, Fat Bazinga XXL Sidemen t-shirt from 2016. Sidemen Manchester meetup.
Personal question. We've got 3 lovely babies, and if you were to take the Sidemen, 7 from heaven, excluding Ethan though, if one of them had to look after your kids for the day,
That's a good question.
Who would you pick?
Excluding Ethan?
Excluding Ethan.
That's a really good question. I feel like Toby has a big family, and I'm sure he has a bunch of nephews and nieces. He's one of 7, right? So I'm sure he has he's just probably, when you're in that big of a family, you're just used to kids. So I feel like he'd be a good bet.
Damn.
Yeah.
Who do you think you're most mentally aligned with? Because for me personally, I love Vic, because I can relate to Vic a lot. But who do you think could do your job for the day out of the gang?
You know what? I think in terms of who's maybe the most interested in the business side, Vic and Josh are the two.
Yeah.
I think either of them would be obviously naturally in it. But I think also, Ethan and Toby have their love for it as well. Simon's like all in on YouTube, obviously, like he's massive on making videos. He's amazing at it. Harry loves traveling and enjoying himself, and JJ's obviously busy doing JJ things. So I think they all could really. But I think Vic and Josh are the two most into the business side. They sit on the boards with us and stuff.
You've always had the mind and the ambition to be a businessman, but even with your clothing brand. And you joined Sam and Aaron, and you guys are essentially the tripod that holds the Sidemen together. But how do you keep an honest bromance alive while dealing with such a demanding brand?
I think for us, it's a case of taking away all of firstly, just to set the scene. So Sam has been the boys' accountant, the Sidemen's accountant for the last 10 years or so. So he's always been their trusted financial advisor, essentially, on anything money related. And I always think like once you're in with money and you're trusted on money, you're trusted with everything, right? So you can have those conversations. So Sam had always had that relationship with them. And then bringing myself more on the creative side, Aaron more on the commercial side into the mix and formalizing management for the guys, which Sam had never done on his own. I think you end up forming basically, as you say, a tripod, including Victor as maybe the centerpiece of the tripod. He came in slightly after. You form this sort of trusted advisory service for the boys, and that's ultimately what management is, right? You're a trusted advisor, just on creativity, on strategy, on brand building, but you're giving advice. Like anyone who says that management is anything other than advice is wrong and is losing their mind. So yeah, I think the way we help them keep everything they're doing alive is scaling around them whilst hopefully making it not feel like they're getting any busier. Like the aim is that they are enjoying it and they're having a good time, because if they're enjoying it and having a good time, then everything else hopefully flows off the back of that.
So when it comes to advice, what's a piece of advice that you have been given, but now in hindsight wish you hadn't taken?
That's a good question. Advice that I've been given, but I wish in hindsight that I hadn't taken.
Yeah. Especially in the business realm that you do, which is so demanding, so popular. Did someone try to dictate you and you tried to listen but it didn't work? Or?
You know what? I think, I mean, the only advice that I wish I didn't take was to go to uni because it was such a waste of time. I think I can't really think of any advice that I've been given that hasn't been, that I've followed that hasn't sort of worked out, I think.
Yeah.
But I think maybe because I've been able to be quite discerning as to what's right, and I've always led, I think, with a sense of gut feel for things, and that gut feel often is correct for me anyway. Yeah, it's not the only, because I can't really think of any advice that I followed that hasn't been right. But I'll think about it.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Let me know when you do.
Yeah, I've never thought about that before.
As well, when you came to the Sidemen to pitch your idea to work with them, what was your unique strategy that won them over, all 7 of them?
Yeah, I think it was the fact that firstly Sam has been their trusted advisor for however long now, so he was able to say, guys, like you need to like listen to this, and at least take a meeting, and they did when we all kind of came together. I think then it was, I think hopefully it was the strategy clearly presented to them in a way that was concise, thoughtful, creative at the heart, and that led really into the concept of how do we help you realize the things you've always wanted to do but haven't had people dedicated and focused to do it for you, which is what management really should be about. So I think all of those things, the guys are like, well, look, we want these things to happen. We've not got anybody doing these things. You guys can do these things, so let's give it a go. And then this is
the infamous drinks fridge.
Yeah, there's always Prime in here.
Prime.
Got
What's your favourite Prime?
I don't really drink energy drinks.
Really?
No.
Are you more of a coffee guy?
I like water. Coffee. I'm boring, man. I'm a dad now. Do you know what I mean? My favourite drink in here is the sparkling water from Can of Water, because that's the only exciting drink I have in my life is sparkling drinks. Sparkling water.
God, I wish I could relate. I'm a Sprite girl.
Yeah. But it's good to, if you want to, feel free. Sips, which is H's drink. We know the guys who do that with him.
Yes, that is honestly amazing.
Yeah, it's all happening, really.
In terms of their personalities, even when
Yeah.
you're on set, because, it looks fun. We can gather that as an audience, but how do you get 7 self-made millionaires with these alternating personalities to listen to you?
We work for them, right? So ultimately, it's being a trusted advisor, and you become a trusted advisor through giving advice and through never forcing it, never pressuring. You just provide advice and recommendations. It's like, we believe this is the best thing for you. They pay us a commission to give them advice. That's all management is, right? Really. And then to go and execute on the mandate that you get from them saying yes or no to things. So I think for me, it's a case of you get trust from them or from any client through being reliable and through being honest and through delivering, right? It's like if you can make things happen and if you can make your client more value, whether it's financial value, whether it's strategic value, audience growth, whatever it might be. If you can do that and you can do that over a period of time, you build trust. And if you build trust, then they listen to you.
And it's evident, isn't it, from experience as well?
Yeah, and the proof's in the pudding, right? Like, we spent the first 6 months being like, cool, we're going to go and do these things for you guys. They said, go for it. I said on Colin and Samir, right? Like, we didn't make a penny until we started making money for them, right? And making value for them. That's the whole model, because again, it puts a heavy amount of accountability on both sides where they can go, you know what, look, like, go for it. We'll give you the trust and the freedom to deliver, but there's no risk for them, which makes it an easy yes. But then for us, it's a case of, right, we now have to go and do these things. So building Side Plus or Sides or Vodka or Charity, whatever it is, everything is driven as a partnership on value, but it's not like we're coming in as some managers do and they go, Rob, we want to take 15% of your AdSense and we're going to start commissioning on all these things, and you just end up causing this sort of debt in a way, because it's like, well, I'm giving you value, but you're not providing anything back. So I think often when those relationships are formed, it doesn't really work. Ours was always a case of how do we provide value from day one with you guys and actually prove it.
That's so cool, because the brand always stems from the content, right? Have you watched Spider-Man?
Which Spider-Man?
Just any.
Any, that back in the day.
So have you heard the quote, with great power comes great responsibility?
Yes.
This is how I see content. How do you make something that is politically correct, but then you manage the fine line between also making that entertaining? Because in a world full of cancel culture, how do you leverage that? Yeah,
look, I think like cancel culture and the concept of the line or whatever that arbitrary line is one that moves and shifts as time changes, right? And I think, we're in a time today where the line is probably more lax than it was, definitely more lax than it was 5-6 years ago. I think you kind of hit peak of cancel culture 2013 to maybe 16. I think Donald Trump coming in probably switched that up massively, as well as just cultural changes happening, which moved the bar of what was accepted culturally. So I think for me, it's a case of making sure that you're just doing the right thing and you're trying to always do what's good and not do what's bad. And people get it wrong, right? Like Sidemen have got it wrong before, we've probably got it wrong before behind the scenes. Like everyone gets it wrong. It's always how you listen to your audience, you take accountability and you adjust. But your audience are the key, right? Like who you're talking to and who you're serving your content to, let them be the judge ultimately, I think, of that line, because everyone's community and audience is different. But when they call you out for something, as you see with some of the big streamers now, whatever, I think it's important for creators to listen. And that's how you can then adapt and make sure you don't make those same mistakes again.
But how do you interpret failure personally? Do you genuinely see it as something that saddens you and that weakens your spirit? Or do you see it as this is a lesson because when you fail fast, you also progress fast?
Yeah, I mean, I think my view on failure is that I think it's never right to wallow or despair in things. I think you just got to take everything as a positive, even if it goes wrong, because it gives you the lessons and that's a net positive, or it gives you experience and that can help you in the future. So I think it's important to have a mindset of nothing's really a failure, because yes, something might not have worked, but it doesn't mean it's a failure and it's a negative experience. It's always, I think, a positive one if you have the right mindset.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. So one of the Sidemen I personally love a lot is JJ KSI, just because he has always been somehow in my life, like through school, you see kids read his book, his rise was literally, I don't even know if I say the word right, meteoric, just absolutely huge. But as well in the music industry, he's propelled to different standards. But how do you question as a manager, how do you react to skeptics who question the authenticity of influencers traveling into mainstream avenues like music?
Yeah, I mean,
skincare,
Yeah, fried chicken or whatever.
Yeah, fried chicken.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think, the interesting thing about the time we're in is that audience provides leverage. And if you have the ability to serve an audience content, you have millions of pounds, if not more, of value that's baked into your brand and the connection that you built over a long period of time if you're a creator like the Sidemen or like JJ is individually, or any of the boys are individually, really. So I think the opportunity to go and disrupt industries is super exciting, because you can just come in at an amazing level, and if you get the brand right, the product right, the price point right, the marketing right, you can make a proper splash. I think, now we're at a point, I don't think where people question it or see it as a somehow wrong or not, doable, because there's been too many examples of people who've been able to break into other spaces and succeed. And I think, like JJ is a good example, but there are many others out there. Think about Mr. Beast with his Amazon show, hypothetically, the Amazon show that's coming. There's all these things now which are proof points, or Sidemen on Netflix, proof points to the fact that crossover can happen. And when that crossover happens, it shuts the sort of 5% who are cynics, kind of shuts them up, right? What can you say to the fact that Amazon have signed Jimmy or signing Jimmy to do a big show with them, or the Netflix have signed a Sidemen doc, So I think, we're at a point now where it's, I think, past the point of being not possible.
Another thing about being not possible, that beautiful bucket, XX Vodka. One of my favourite quotes from you is when you said to the BBC, "I have quit alcohol to become a success in business," which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But why release a premium vodka brand?
Because that was for me. So I am a big believer. I think I said this in the BBC thing that I believe sobriety isn't necessarily better than moderation. I definitely don't. In fact, I think moderation is always the goal and the optimum. But different people have to manage that for themselves, right? Some people can moderate amazingly well. Other people don't moderate well, or don't moderate sort of lifestyle choices well. Going out, partying, whatever. Some people are quite extreme, some people aren't. I was one of those people that sort of started later, I guess, in a way, maybe more towards 16, 17, but then went quite heavy into festivals, partying, going out.
And that's how you met your wife.
Yeah, weirdly. Got something good out of it at the end, I guess. But yeah, whereas I think for others, of course, that's not the case. And for the guys, there are various different levels of engagement with alcohol, right? Like Toby is never drunk. JJ has stopped drinking as much because of his obviously his fitness side. Some of the other guys do more because they're part of different lifestyles, and they can moderate and balance that depending on how they how they live. But yeah, obviously also as a manager, right? Like you're not always doing things that are part of your lifestyle.
Yes, of course.
That's also important, right? I think being a manager is about how do you realize the ambitions of your client, not necessarily how do you do something that you're always going to use.
Yeah.
So I've never tried this.
I was going to say, have you actually ever tried it?
Because it's not for me.
It's not for you.
It's not for me. But obviously very invested and involved in every element of the brand, right?
Business proposition, mocktail version.
You know what?
That could do good.
We've spoken about 0%. I think it's not as big of a market as you think, but I think it's definitely grown as a trend, right? Like I think more and more people are questioning alcohol consumption, party choices. I think often, interestingly, it's more a financial thing nowadays. Yeah. People don't have the money to go out like they used to, so I think that also dictates a lot. But anyway, it's super interesting because I've never tried our own vodka, but
that is honestly amazing.
Yeah, but it's been a ton of fun. It's been one of the most fun and challenging things. Alcohol is a very challenging space to enter from a business perspective, but one that is full of learnings. I've learned so much from doing this brand, so yeah, interesting.
That's sick. When did you make your first million, and what was the sensation of seeing that number?
Have I made that now? I mean, I don't think I guess it depends on what you define as million. I haven't made like $1 million in liquid cash.
Whatever you determine as a great financial success in terms of the Sidemen.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, you know, what is interesting is seeing businesses get valued and seeing the work that you put in create some kind of intangible value that provides a marker of, okay, cool, you guys are on the journey to building something great. You know, we've done that for the boys, we've done that for Sides, we've done that for Vodka, we've done that for Side Plus. Like we have these numbers. Problem is, right, I've been around those things don't mean it. Like you can have a business valued at whatever, it doesn't mean anything until that number's materialized or exited. So yes, you can have high amounts of revenue from a business. You can have a good amount of AdSense or money from a Side Plus, whatever it is, but ultimately the true payoff comes at the end of the journey for the brand, or the end of the journey or the end of one chapter, which is when you sell it or create some kind of a sale value. So that's the bit we're all working towards, right? Not that it's purely commercial or monetary by any means. Like you do these things because they're fun and they're a journey, but they have some monetary end goal. For us, it's a case of realizing that at the end. Do you know what I mean? Because I think there's nothing really until that point.
Can I be cheeky? Because I really want to smell the vodka.
Yes,
because I'm Bulgarian, so
please.
I feel like genetically I know a thing or two. But I'll take this.
If there's an open one, do it.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm making a bit of progress. This flavour is premium vodka original, 40%. Oh my god. Yeah. That smells real. That is authentic vodka right there. It's honestly so amazing. Like seeing all the pictures, what impresses me the most is that how they're a diverse group of friends and they created this business and people are a fan of them because of their personalities. But people, I think they don't understand how much weight is on a person like your shoulders when you're doing things like, you know, when you're organising. As much as this is a joy to you, I can imagine trying to do something and physically make it work is probably really hard, right?
You know what? I think because it's such a good team, because there's 3 co-founders, it's not just me. I think if it was just one of us as a management, like, no, it would be stressful. But there are 3 of us, plus Victor, obviously 4 of us, really. So I think it's great. Like, we love it. And I think that's because there's a team of people around it. If it was just in isolation, it wouldn't be the one, I don't think.
Oh, amazing.
But I've always said I would never co-found, I would never start a business on my own again.
Always you were not into that, were you?
Always with people now. Infinitely better. Yeah.
That is amazing. What do you think your next business might be? Or do you think you're going to, after best, you're like, I'm done?
You know what? So we've been working there's, I think, one more thing, which is we've been working for a long time on a VC fund, which is completely separate, totally different lane, obviously in finance, and it's not something for fans really, but that's coming end of March. I think after that, I think, I think we're good.
Your character is so wise, and it seems like you have mentally got it there, which is amazing. So, but you've also lead a very busy lifestyle at home and also with the Sidemen. So, you know, you've got fan bases to look after, you've got family, you've got friendships. How do you navigate that where it's not too much as a burden? Because a lot of young people are ambitious, right? They want to do so-and-so, but then the idea of it being too much is what then crushes their soul. So how do you live this lifestyle?
I think it's a case of not really taking it all too personally, not being attached to any of it. I think that's important. I think there has to be a healthy amount of detachment in life for anyone to sleep and to wake up without the burden of things taking over, right? I think there has to be a healthy detachment. I find the people that struggle the most with balance are the ones that are too attached to any part of their life, and I think it's important to just take a step back and see things in their right perspective. And I think if you do that and you are You don't let anything overwhelm you by looking too far ahead. I'm a big believer in just being quite present, I don't look at my calendar for the next week. I just don't
Really?
bother now because I just go.
You're not a
day by day.
planner ahead.
No, because a planner depends how you define planner, but I don't like to look ahead. So I always, have meetings, I'll set things. There's a lot going on all the time. But if I say, right, well, I've got this thing this day and this, I find it personally quite overwhelming to be like, all right, this is a busy week or there's a lot going on. And I think a better way of doing it is just waking up, dealing with the day ahead, and then you crack on to the next one. You have your clear boundaries of time, and then you do what you need to do within them. That way, everything feels fresh and dynamic and exciting, rather than there's a lot. There's a lot coming up. This kind of a burden or too draining, if you will.
Amazing, Jordan. What's your very last creme de la creme piece of advice that you would like to give to the viewers or people at home who are just desperately trying to be something but don't know where to start?
Yeah, I'd say become good at something, really get a skill. It's underrated advice because you don't hear it enough really, that actually forgetting everything on top, the fundamental thing is being good at something tangibly, tangibly be good at something. And I think for me, it's the difference maker is pairing tangible skills with a personal brand. If you can do those two things together, you'll be fine. It's just about having something that you are actually good at, and that's the thing that will require time. And if you can put the graft in, put the time in, and you can become good, then you'll have options on the table for you, especially if you pair that with marketing yourself. And that's a bit as well that people find hard. So those two things at the same time, have a tangible skill and promote yourself, build a personal brand.
Amazing. Jordan, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you, guys.